Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional 9-dango player. For the last few days, they have been playing the main tournament of the ING CUP. So the ING CUP has ING rules, which are somewhat similar to the Chinese rules. The komi is 8 points, which is more or less equivalent to the 7.5 points or the 3 3/4 stones that the Chinese use. So it's a big komi, and if you ask AI, most of the time white's going to be ahead. Ichiriki has the black stones, and Ke Jie is playing with white. This is the first round of a 3-game match in the semifinals of the ING CUP. Ichiriki was the only player from Japan in the main tournament, so he's keeping Japan in the tournament up to this point. All of the Korean players have been knocked out. It seems Shinjin-so is in a bit of a slump. He's losing some of his games recently. The other Chinese player is Ke, and there's a player from Taipei, Su Haoheng. Okay, from the first move on. Black has played a tight shimari. There was a point where people hesitated to play this shimari. Shortly after Master, the version of AlphaGo, was playing shoulder hits, and people tended to get over-concentrated. I suppose that nowadays people have plans against this. So like Black can sometimes play away or play a pincer on the top side. It doesn't seem to be so much of a problem nowadays. So people can play the small shimari again. And now white plays a pincer. Against this pincer, black played away. Black played the 3/3 point. So even among top pros, I have the feeling that people just play this 3/3 point invasion when they are not sure of where to play. So it's a kind of a default move people play. Locally, the move would probably be this one. And this is a popular Joseki, in which case white's probably going to push through and cut. And at this point, white has two choices. So white can defend on the left, maybe something like this, and then black would add a stone to the bottom side. So this would be a basic Joseki, maybe something like this. If black plays a loose move, like the move at 9 here, maybe white's going to curl around. Looking at the shortage of liberties, the potential shortage of liberties that black has there. The other possibility is that white plays on this side, and there was a point where black would push a few times, and we thought this was good for black. So in this case, when white plays this move in an attempt to surround the black stones, black has the attachment and can capture the white stones in a net. So this would be a complete collapse for white. However, in a recent game between Ichiriki and Iyama, Iyama played this variation. And with this variation, there's a peep here, which makes it slightly difficult for black to continue here. So this would continue with something like this, and it would be a completely different, much more complicated variation. So it could be that Ichiriki was not sure he had a good response to this kind of variation that was recently played against him. So back to the main variation. After invading the 3/3 point and sliding here, white played this. So this is the modern move. We used to play the attachment like this. So if white plays an attachment here, black will be able to wedge. And this depends on a ladder. So if white plays here, it's generally necessary for black to have an advantage in this ladder. And in this case, black does. So white will play on the outside, something like this. And there's a cut at e5 that black is going to be hoping to use. White will probably play something in the middle of the side. And it's close enough. It's even enough. But it's easy. It was easy for black to live in the corner. So that's why we don't see this as much as we see the game move at the komi here. So this makes it relatively difficult or cramped for black to live in the corner. Black immediately attached here and played the double hane. So at this point, black could have gotten out by playing this move, but it tends to be bad shape. So at this point, if black connects here, That's a very heavy shape that black has. And it looks like white can play this fight. So that would be why black did not choose this variation. So the double hane is trying to make room to live. And black cuts now. At this point, black had an opportunity, still had an opportunity to live in the corner. So if black had played here. So this black group, for the time being, it's alive. So black might continue in the center, but he might play elsewhere also. So like, for instance, somewhere on the left side would be a big point. And since black has lived in the corner, he can afford to sacrifice the 2 stones on the outside if white wants to use a stone capturing them. So just to show what I'm talking about, if white plays here, this would be threatening black stones in the corner. And white can capture the 2 stones, although black would be able to get another move on the left side. So this would be okay for black. Instead, he extended. This gave white an opportunity to continue attacking the corner. Now it's a bit more difficult for black to live in the corner. And so black just sacrificed it. So in this variation, it was relatively simple because black just sacrificed those stones. Later on, if he plays a stone here and then here, he's still going to lose the race to capture, but he will get some potential squeeze from the outside. Okay, so he plays the pincer here, and white moved out towards the center, after which black played here. I get the impression that black is playing relatively simply, so not getting into the really complicated variations. For instance, this is also a point where black could have played a pincer here, and the continuation in the top left corner could be relatively complicated. So for instance, white might try this one. And this would lead to a fight in the center of the board. So white would have a forcing move there, but black 13 is threatening white on the top side also. So something like this. This is actually suggested by AlphaGo, and it would be a fairly even variation. Much more dangerous also. So the game move was relatively safe, and it allowed white to surround the left side. So a relatively peaceful start. And then black played this move. So this is a move that took me by surprise. And maybe it wasn't the best move. It would have been natural for black to play here. So this would be, for the time being, it would be threatening the white group. If white answers in directly, so that would be to play here or to play here, I would say this exchange was good for black. So white will probably play this one, but it's probably good for black to have that exchange in. So otherwise, maybe white's going to pincer here, and hoping to connect underneath like this. And something like this might happen. So this would be an example of the running fight into the center, which would be close enough to even. White does have a group to defend on the right side here. So white has 2 weak groups, and black has a weak group in between the 2 weak white groups, which is usually a good thing for black. All right, so instead of doing that, black played here, and white played here. So this was, it was the AI move, a very strong move, starting to attack black on the right side. So it's hitting the blind spot of the black stone. For instance, if white had played elsewhere and black had played, in this case, black might even start with this, but if black had played like this, then the right side would be a very good area for black. So white dives in, and black has to defend the stone on the right. So black moves this way. Okay, so white's putting the pressure there, and black played here. So I'm going to question this move. I think black should have just simply jumped out. And maybe something like this. A running fight in the center of the board. And black's going to attempt to surround the top side in the meanwhile. So this would be a very difficult fight. The way black played in the game, it seemed very cramped. So it strengthened the white group on this side. So white has a fairly strong position there now. And white still had the peep at Q11. So this peep here, this peep turned out to be a fairly important move. So we'll see that happening later in the game. Or actually, right now, when white peeps now. So there's some significance to this peep. White is, for the time being, white is threatening to cut black off. So if black plays here, white can push through and extend here and cut off this black group. So surround the black stones on the right. So black answered that, and then white played the hane. So just to show one variation where the peep is very important, if black plays here and then plays here and plays this way. So if black tries to connect up underneath, this stone at Q11, it makes it possible for white to cut here. And so without this exchange, black would be able to push through at Q12. But since white has that exchange, black has to simply take the one stone, and white gets to cut off the black group on the side. So in this case, black would still have to capture the stones in the corner, so maybe something like this. And white's group would be strong in this case, with a kind of a connection to the right side. And so black would be in a bit of trouble in this variation. So the game was like this up to this point, and black connected, so black squeezed this way. This was a relatively good variation for white, though. So going back to this point, another feasible variation would be for black to play here and then connect here. So this would be, again, it would be a way of sacrificing the two stones, but maybe a better sacrifice than black got in the game. So this would be senti at least when white made two eyes. Okay, in the game, black squeezed like this, and white took the one stone. Okay, so black switched to the corner. This is always a big move, but since white has been reinforced there, white could just ignore it. And this was an important point. So this was important because it got rid of the threat of a cut here. So it makes it more difficult for black to cut on the sixth line. So maybe black should have cut first, in which case this would be the tessuji. If white plays an atari here, then white would have to defend the cut anyway. So it's much better for white to play here, and black will play here. White jumps out. Something like this. So maybe it was better for black to play this way. This would give black a relatively strong position in the center of the side. So that black group, it's close enough to being alive. It's not 100% alive, but it's much stronger than it was in the game. And this weak black group, it was a problem for black later in the game. Okay, so white played here. And now the white group on the side, it's alive. And black invaded the left side. So in this variation, the game variation, black still has a bit of a problem with this group, which is it's not alive. It's not connected up to anywhere yet. White does have a weakness here where black can cut off the three white stones. So if black gets to play a stone on the outside, that will become a real threat. So white kicks, taking away black's space, and black jumped out. And white, yes, so white played underneath. So the computer is giving white a small lead now, but it's still something similar to the lead that white started off with. So with 7.5 points or 8 points in the ING CUP rules, white does start with an advantage. And so it's pretty much the same advantage at this point. So extending here was a bit heavy, and the suggested move was for black to jump out here, or to play the connection first and jump out. So black's losing the semi, but maybe just by one liberty. So later on, black can play here and throw in here. And in this variation, if white connects, so this is a ko, so we don't really know how that's going to turn out. but in this position, white has 3 liberties and black has just 2. So white's going to win by 1 liberty. But it means that black does have this forcing move from outside. So black has a strong position on the outside and is connected up in the center. So playing it free, it would it would get rid of the problem of having a weak group on this side by giving black a strong position in the center of the board. It would be a fairly close game, although the computer does give white a small advantage. So in the game, black extended, and white took this opportunity to press from above. And so this becomes potentially a splitting attack, where white is looking at the group on the right side also. Okay, so white is playing strongly here because black's group on the left is not settled, and white wants to split it from the group on the right side of the board. And so that's what white's doing here. Black actually defended the left side, which gave white the opportunity to play this, which is a threat against black's group on the right, while white is starting to capture stones, the 2 stones in the center. So if white can capture this area, that's going to be enough to give white a solid lead in this game. So black runs out, and white got to push here. So this saves the 3 stones. So white's made a connected shape up to the center. And although white's position here in the center, it seems to have some holes, like these, a very loose connection here. The fact that black group on the right side is in danger means that black cannot really counterattack. So black played here, cutting white off, and escaped. This threatened to push through at O10. And now white is going after the 2 black stones there. So these are cutting stones. So by capturing these stones, white's group in the center becomes strong, and there's still a threat against black's group on the right side. So black defended that. And now white pushes. So white added a stone to the center, solidifying white's position in the center of the board while reducing black's potential area on the top side. And this looks like it was a bit of an overplay. It could be that black's behind anyway, maybe a bit desperate at this point. And by surrounding black here, it turns out that white could actually capture this black group. So you might have expected white to be a bit more cautious, but if white connects here, now black has multiple threats. So black is threatening to push through at the Tengen point and also threatening to escape this way. So white can't do that. And so it was a very strong move here, which was filling the liberty and stopping black from pushing through at this point. So white is stopping black from doing that, which would be a potential problem for white. And white gets to squeeze black in a way. So still white is preventing black from pushing through at H10 because black is going to be short of liberties. So that was the weakness that white had to keep an eye on. And finally, he defends it. So when white defends with this bamboo joint, again, we see the black group on the right getting into trouble. So black cuts here. This is not going to end without a ko. So when black cuts here at J15, there's 2 white groups that are in danger. So there's these 2 white stones and these 2 white stones. These 2 white stones on the right, they have a ko attached to them. So that's the place where white's going to have to play the ko. So white connects this side. And black does not have room for 2 eyes. So he played here. And if white was timid and played something like this, then black would have a local ko. So this would be a ko to make 2 eyes. Instead, white captured the stone and finished this ko. So now black has another ko and is going to try to if black can win the ko, black can capture the cutting stones. So the problem with this is that black's group on the right is in danger as it stands. So This is where Ichiriki resigned. If he had continued trying to save the group on the right, White could just continue the ko. And the group on the right is in danger already, but all White has to do is win the ko in the center. That would be good enough for White. So it's a pretty hopeless situation where Black does not have enough ko threats to win this ko, and is probably on in trouble on the right side in any case. So like a reasonable move would be adding a stone here, and White would just finish off the fight in the center. So I'd say this was a very convincing win by Ke Jie. There was a period where he seemed to be in bad form, um, but it looks like he's back in form now. So very convincing win. This is a match of the best of three. So this was just the first game, and Ichiriki will have a chance to play the second round, and if he wins 2 games, he can still win the match. So that's going to happen on the 8th, and I think it's the 9th of July. And I'll probably have to follow up with videos because I have business on those days. Okay, thank you for watching the video to the end, and I'll be back with more videos about the ING CUP. Thank you.